In this lesson, we're going to learn about the Notification Center, why we use it, where you can get it, and how we're going to use it in our scripts. So you can find the Notification Center online in the Unity Community Wiki at this address. Now, we're not using this original Notification Center. We're actually using this Notification Center generics that we had to create when we ran into Pragma Strict and Android errors. So you can download the script here near the bottom of this list, or you can find it inside of the scripts folder in the game scripts folder, and it's just called Notification Center. Now, to use Notification Center, all you need to do is drop it into your scripts or your assets folder anywhere. And then in your code, you'll just need to run some code which will automatically create the objects that Notification Center needs to run. For example, if we hit play, we can see we have no Notification Center in our hierarchy when the game is not on. When we hit play, however, a Notification Center object is created, and it automatically connects its own script to it. And it knows how to deal with any messages sent to the Notification Center, and it knows how to deal with the messages it's sending. So now let's take a look at the publish subscribe design pattern. So again, I'm just going to jump over to this website here where they have a really nice graphic. So everything we've seen so far is a direct connection from script A to script B. What the Notification Center allows us to do is it allows us to have a loose coupling or a loose connection between script A and script B, because the message or the function name that we want to call is always being put through a central server, or in other words, the Notification Center. Now, of course, there's a lot of written about the publish subscribe pattern, why we should use it, the advantages of it, as well as the disadvantages. But we really only need to worry about it in the context of our Unity script. And so we're using Notification Center simply to call functions on many other scripts. So let's take a quick look at the Notification Center script and then a quick look at an implementation before we get into the details. So I'm just going to open up the Notification Center, and to use this, we do not need to modify a single line of code. This is all set up correctly so that it will work sort of automatically, and it will do what we ask it to do. So before, you'll recall in the enemy class, I mentioned that before we had a death script that did many things, and that we replaced it with this single line. So instead of having a direct connection to every single script and every single object that needed to know when an enemy was killed, all we had to do was say, hey, our Notification Center, I want to post a notification or post a message called enemy killed. And after that, I don't care, and I'm going to destroy myself. So once this enemy killed is sent to the Notification Center, the Notification Center says, okay, I've got a message called enemy killed. Do any observers or any other scripts need to have access to this? And the scripts that need to have access, such as the spawn controller, at the beginning of the script, tell the Notification Center which messages they want to subscribe to. So our Notification Center, or our spawn controller tells our Notification Center that, hey, I want to listen, and whenever there's an enemy killed message, send that down my way. And then it will run the function that is called the message. And Notification Center actually does this using the send message function, as we can see here. Now, this is very well commented code. It's not a lot of code, as you can see here, and it's doing a relatively simple operation. It's keeping a list of observers for a specific message. And then, if it receives a message, it queries that list and sends that message to whichever scripts asked for that message. So we can see here our spawn controller is listening for quite a few different messages. And we use this in our game to concatenate or to send the large game events. So an enemy is dead, which means it died when trying to kill the player. An enemy was killed by the player. It's the game over. We finish the round. We're starting the next one. We are starting this for the first time. We're pausing. We're unpausing. We're resetting. And so these are all very important messages that need to get sent to many places. For example, if we have our particle script here, if we can find it, I believe that's under our controllers, and if we look at particle death, this needs to know whenever an enemy dies. And so it listens for those two events, and then it instantiates the particles based on the notification message or the notification sender. And so it's a very robust system where script A, so let's say our enemy, can send out this message to our notification center. And it doesn't really care what happens to the message after it's sent. And then the notification center can send that message to anyone who wants to subscribe to this. So again, this is very loosely coupled. A does not have a direct connection to B. Enemy does not have a direct connection to our particle death script. They can work completely separately. And in fact, any script can send out an enemy killed notification, and the particle death will listen for it. So why is this so important? Well, this is important because we often need to add or change our functionality. And if we have tight connections, adding new functionality requires us to add to two scripts. For example, without the notification center, if we just created this particle death script, I would have to go to my enemy script, make sure that it could find the particle death object and find the component on that object, and that it was sending the correct function message for the particle death, and so on and so forth. And then, let's say we wanted to add a sound manager whenever the enemy was killed. Then we have to go back into the enemy script, connect it up to our sound manager, go to the sound manager, connect it up to our enemy script, and so on and so forth. And by having this center point, this notification center, living at the hub of our game, we can send messages and receive those messages in almost any variety. And the message received doesn't do the same thing on every script. In the particle death, this enemy killed function creates new particles. On the spawn controller, it simply changes a value that says, hey, I can create a new enemy whenever I have a chance to again. In the game state controller, it says we need to increment the score value and display that. And all of that was executed, or all of that was initialized or started by a single line of code. Now, there are some limitations that we have to keep in mind. For example, if we misspell the message, the resulting function is, of course, not going to be called. And if we spawn multiple messages, let's say enemy killed means one thing to me, and it means one thing to a fellow programmer on our team, that can get confusing as well. And since this is such a loose connection, we can't guarantee that particle death is automatically or always going to happen whenever the enemy sends out enemy killed. For example, we can't test if particle death has received that message, like we could if we created a direct connection using the findWith tag. But even with these limitations, this has been an incredible boon to our project, and I'm sure after a little bit of use, you'll find many areas of your own game and your own code where you can use this to not only save time in your coding and your typing, but also to make your program and logic flow much, much simpler. So in the next lesson, let's take a look at how we can send out a new notification or post a notification, and a little bit more about the specific code that we have to type to use the notification center.